All right, we are back on MorningLine. Our guest is Tequila Johnson with Equity Alliance. Glad to have her on this morning. Taking several phone calls this morning just on voter equity and the like. 737-7587 is the number. I guess the question is then, where do we go from here right now? As far as what your organization is doing, trying to get more vote out. And are you trying to get laws changed back? I know that you want to have them look at that Supreme Court ruling back from 2013 that maybe gutted some of the checks and balances. But I mean, what can be done? Are you looking in Tennessee or nationally right now?
So we're looking nationally and in the state of Tennessee. Nationally, obviously, with the voter pre-clearance, but in the state of Tennessee with the voter registration suppression law that Governor Bill Lee signed into place a few months back.
And so, yeah, it would require groups that pay employees and hold voter registration drives to follow certain requirements or face civil fines or criminal punishment. Just saying civil crimes, fines, or criminal punishment, that's chilling.
That is chilling.
That's enough. You hear that, it's like, I'm not going to bother with it, let it go, right?
Yeah.
Is that the thinking?
Well, that may be the thinking for most people, but it's not my thinking.
Oh, I know it's not for you, but that's what you have to worry about. And for some people, they're going to like, well, why bother?
Why bother? You're exactly right.
If you mess up and you face criminal charges?
If you mess up, you could potentially face criminal charges. I'm not able to say as much about it because there is a lawsuit right now, but I can say that yesterday a judge in the state decided that they were going to dismiss the case, dismiss the state's request to dismiss the lawsuit against them and say no, we're going to move forward with this because there obviously is something there that is not right.
To let a judge or jury end up deciding on something like that. So yeah, it's not summary judgment was denied. That case is going to move forward.
It's going to move forward. We are a plaintiff in that case, so I can't say as much as I would like to. Okay. But just know that we're not going to stop registering voters.
And where do you go again to do the registering voters? I love the idea of the nightclubs, but what do you do?
So we've done everything. Anywhere we've literally gone to almost 100 churches in the state. We've done laundromats, we've done nightclubs, we've done festivals, we've done concerts, we've done Little League football games, beauty shops, barber salons, you name it.
And when you go out there, do you find that as you're approaching individuals, a lot of the people there you find are not registered to vote? Yeah. Or do you go up to a lot of folks and say, oh, I'm already registered? Or do you find a surprising number that aren't?
Yeah, you find, I mean, it's pretty mixed. There are places where people aren't registered. There are places where people are registered, but they're like, well, I think I'm registered, I haven't voted, so they could potentially be purged. It is just like voter registration in the state of Tennessee. I like to say Tennessee is ground zero for voter suppression, and voter registration in the state of Tennessee is like the Wild Wild West. You never know what kind of tumbleweed's going to roll over your feet.
You mean in terms of barriers to keep you from being able to do it?
Exactly.
So, but when you say you think Tennessee #1 in the country for voter suppression,
if we're not #1, we're neck and neck with a few people. Some of our neighboring states. Okay,
so and your feeling though is that there are so many barriers out there that it's keeping thousands of people home from voting.
Oh yeah, I mean, just in 2016 we were 50th in voter turnout. We went from 50th to 45 based off of the efforts from the Equity Alliance and groups like us. And what did you see happen? This major voter suppression law came into place. So I definitely think that Tennessee, the lawmakers in Tennessee, especially on the state level, have a death grip on how to keep people from voting, and they are really, really, really hammering it in. Okay,
and if you can, just lay out then specifically what you think are maybe 2 or 3 of the greatest barriers. When you say they've got a death grip on how to do it, all right, so I mean they can do the purging of the voter rolls and get rid of them, and then those folks have to start over from scratch. What are the biggest barriers you think?
The voter rolls and the felony voter disenfranchisement laws. We know that there are almost 400,000 people who have been incarcerated that have served their time, have done their due diligence, and they're still unable to register to vote because of crazy things like fines, fees, child support. Child support is an extreme barrier, which I am a single mom, so I am all for accountability, but what people don't understand is Tennessee is one of the places that looks at incarceration, one of very few states that views incarceration as willful unemployment. So if I'm on child support, when I go to prison, my child support continues to accrue.
That's right.
And when I get out, I may have this ginormous child support debt hanging over my head, and as long as you owe the state child support, you'll never be able to register to vote. And so it's almost like you bury people in this hole, and you say that, oh, we want to rehabilitate them so that they get out and they don't reoffend, but there's so many barriers in place that prevents them from getting out and actually becoming an active member of society. So I think that is one of the major things that we need to look at as a state. We need to look at how do we monitor child support? How do we make sure that we are protecting the rights of the mothers, but that we are also putting the well, not just mothers, but the rights of the person who is paying child support? And how are we putting things in place that gives them an opportunity to pay child support? Because a lot of people are getting out of prison and they're not able to really get back into society, so they're still not paying their child support.
Right.
So
it's hard
like
for them to find a job. So you're saying that child support, if you've fallen behind, maybe because you were in prison or something along those lines, should not be something that takes away your right to vote.
Exactly. In fact, a huge percentage of people or felony voter registration forms who were denied because they owed child support.
Why do you think the establishment doesn't want felons to vote?
Because I think one of the things that I've learned from doing work inside of prisons is that some of the smartest people, most knowledgeable people of the law are in prison. When people go to prison, they automatically want to know why. A good huge percentage of them go in there and they're reading, they're educating themselves on the law. And so when they get out, a lot of the things that I do, I get advice from people who have been incarcerated because they are pointing to certain things within the law that I'm not even thinking about because I've never had to live through it. But they can direct you to things that the average person isn't thinking about. And I really think that that population of people will come out and will be civic leaders if they were given the opportunity, a huge percentage of them.
So the answer would be the establishment doesn't want them to have the right to vote because they don't think they'll vote for them.
Potentially, or maybe they think they'll take their position.
Oh, okay. I mean, it could be something like that. Because that's what it comes down to for me, is exclusion. I mean, the motivation behind it has to be that you don't think the folks that you're trying to create these barriers for would vote for whatever the establishment's in place setting the barriers. Right. It's that simple. Otherwise, like I said, with me, I'm kind of like you. The nonpartisanship, you look at it, it's not so much about me, about Republican or Democrat necessarily, as much as just looking at the individual candidate. And in my mind, I just want everyone to be able to vote. And that includes people that may not agree with me. I don't care. If you don't agree with me, I still want you to vote. Your vote is just as important as mine. But the fact that there's people out there, it makes it more difficult for them to vote.
Yep. Tons of people.
And you get the sense that they totally understand why it's hard for them, or they just kind of accept it?
I think a lot of people have just accepted it, but I think a lot of the voter apathy comes from mistrust in government.
Okay, so it's apathy, but there's not anger there really, because anger can sometimes motivate you. Say, gosh darn it, to heck with it, I'm going to do this. It's more apathy like, what can I do? Yeah,
it's more apathy like, well, it doesn't matter, or I've heard people say, well, African Americans, black people, we've been voting for years and we're still in the same positions.
What do you say to them when they say that?
And I just tell them, like, it's because, yes, we have been voting, but we have not been organizing, we have not been strategizing, and we've not been holding them accountable. We have been voting as this trust of, oh, this is what we're supposed to do, without having a plan as to what it is we want. What we're saying is, let's reverse that. Let's figure out what it is we want, what we need for our community, and let's put people in place who we have access to that we can hold accountable to make sure that those things come to fruition.
What you're going to need are the candidates.
You're going to need the candidates. It cannot be business as usual.
I know you have to, and you're going to have, and I don't know if that's, I don't know how you target them. I don't know how you start, creating candidates that fit certain mold. I don't know.
I think you empower them. I think I told you on the break that I think the best candidates are the ones that have to be nudged.
Yeah, that aren't really willing. They don't really want to run.
They don't want to run. They're not coming out saying, I want to run for office, because it takes a certain amount of ego to put yourself in the spotlight and say, I want to be put on Front Street and everybody to know me and see me. And you know, a lot of people like that because it does give you access to power, it does give you name recognition, all those things, and influence. But a lot of people like myself, I have no desire to run for office. One, because I don't, even though I'm kind of in the spotlight now, I don't want to have the pressure of being in the spotlight to make decisions for a whole group of people. Because then my decisions can't be just for my community or for people that look like me or think like me. I have to decide on things that are going to benefit my entire constituency. And so those people are very hard to come by.
I guess, but that's for the best. I mean, you're in favor of benefiting an entire constituency.
Oh, of course.
You know, the bottom line is making sure everyone is equal footing is what it comes down to, and that's not always the case.
It's the bottom line is the American principles, the values, the things that our country was built upon, you know. Access to the American dream, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, how much anything you have, if you are not controlling or if you're not having a say or freedom to choose how you're governed, your money, your land, your children's schooling, your house, everything has some sort of policy attached to it that is decided upon by someone that is voted in. And if you're not voting, you essentially don't have a say in that.
So you would say get out and vote this Thursday?
I would say.
Did you early vote?
I early voted. I did because I got tired of all the mailers.
Yeah.
Yes. I usually vote on election day just to go out and see.
I know, it can be exciting sometimes, but you never know. Something comes up that day and you miss it. I'm like you. I always try to early vote if I can. That way, even though my intention is to go out on election day, I've had things where work has come up, and it really, very rarely for me, but I've missed votes, and it depresses me. And I feel as though I've let the country down in some way when I don't vote. I'm serious. And so I do the early voting because I don't want to miss it if I can. Tequila, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It is a real pleasure. It's a good topic to discuss. We'll do more on this, all right?
Okay, anytime.
Thank you, ma'am. Take a break. Be back with a programming note about tomorrow right after this. Stay with us.